Is Marva really dead? This is probably the biggest question on everyone's mind after watching episode 11. The episode was certainly intent on convincing audiences that Marva is indeed dead, but just how convincing is this, and is there a bigger plot at play? Well, in this video, we're gonna go through all the possible hints that Marva is still alive, and if she is indeed alive, what might she be up to? I think at the center of why so many people think that Marva might not be dead is simply due to how anticlimactic her character sort of went out. Now granted, the show has been giving us clues about her deteriorating health, but it just seemed like at the very least Marva might still have gone out with a bang. Things seem to be headed towards a rather explosive confrontation with the Empire from the very moment she chose to pick up her blaster. And if you go back to all the different Ferrix scenes in episode 11, something does kind of feel off. The biggest alarm bell that all is not what it seems probably came from Brasso's conversation with B, specifically when Brasso tries to comfort B by saying,
"The daughters of Ferrix require your assistance in matters of grave importance."
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounded a lot like there was a hidden meaning behind those words. It just seems like a really weird thing to say to someone grieving over the loss of a loved one. And what exactly does Brasso mean regarding matters of grave importance? Other than the fact that there might be a deeper meaning behind those words, one explanation could be that the Daughters of Ferrix are in charge of arranging the funeral procession, one that would require B's assistance. But all this could really just be part of a cover to fake Marva's death. Another thing to note is that when we first cut to Ferrix, we see Brasso catch a teacup, the very same teacup that Marva was drinking out of a few episodes ago. And this could very well indicate that Marva supposedly died not that long ago. If the half-drunk teacup is any indication of how recent Marva supposedly passed away, then I have to say that everyone's response seems kinda rapid. It almost seems like both incidents happened back to back, the sort of timely response that is only plausible if everything was pre-arranged. On top of this, you could almost argue that the entire procession carrying Marva's body out of her house and down the street is incredibly orchestrated, possibly designed to make a big announcement to everyone and specifically to the Imperials of Marva's supposed passing, a signal big enough to lower the guard of the Imperials watching. And if this is indeed the case, then it might actually add a whole other dimension to another Ferrix scene in the previous episode, specifically one where we see the Doctor being guided by a few Daughters of Ferrix. Pay attention to how the group walks specifically in front of the Imperial HQ before heading to Marva's house. If this is all part of a major conspiracy to fake Marva's death, then this scene here could be another way that the local rebels are using to make the Empire think that Marva's death is indeed genuine. Think about it, you walk the Doctor in front of the Imperial HQ before leading him to Marva's house to plant the seeds of possibility, then sometime later you follow up on this by announcing Marva's death to the entire community, and no one would suspect anything else. However, if this entire procession is designed to fool the Imperials, then the biggest question of them all is why would Marva want to do this? What would be the purpose of all this acting in the first place? Well, one thing for sure is that Marva would definitely be aware that she was being watched. Not only is she aware that Cassian's actions on Morlana 1 and Ferrix have drawn the attention of the Empire, but her own suspicious rebel activity would also be under the Empire's watchful eye. It really doesn't take a genius to figure out that if she wants to conduct some anti-Imperial activity, it would be easiest to do it if the Empire thinks you're dead. Not only would they be unable to keep an eye on you, they might shift their attention somewhere else entirely. Another weird thing about this whole Ferrix scene in episode 11 is that not once was there a mention of Bix or the hanging of Salman Pack.
And Salman Park?
I don't care.
I'd like to hang him. What's left of him, anyway.
As you wish.
And it's a little weird since Brasso should be well aware that Bix was captured, after all he did tell her to run. So it would stand to reason that if he couldn't find her after being chased by the Imperials, then she must have been captured by the Empire. And given how close of friends Bix and Brasso was, and how much of a long-standing community member Salman Pack is, it just seems kind of off that the response to the Empire's treatment of them is so muted. Unless the locals were planning something big and were keeping things under the radar until the time was right. And this very much might be the case, as we've seen guys like Brasso conduct rebel activity when it came to buying Cassian some time. So there's no real reason why a guy like Brasso wouldn't be willing to take up arms against the Empire. Another point to make is how active the daughters of Ferrix suddenly seem to be, despite the fact that Marva had previously wanted nothing to do with them.
What about the daughters of Ferrix? She's a past president. They must have a warm room somewhere.
They've tried. She's made her wishes clear.
A lot of these separate moments and incidents, when put together, do seem to suggest that Marva's death isn't exactly what it seems to be, that clearly something big is about to happen in the finale. The only piece of the puzzle that doesn't quite seem to fit is B's role in all of this. The droid genuinely seemed upset at Marva's death, sort of like a pet who just learned that his owner has died. There is something pretty authentic about the droid's reaction to the whole thing. One possible explanation as to why B might not be aware of what is going down is that the droid is really bad at cover-ups. I mean, go back to the first few episodes and you'll realize that there is a sort of innocence to the droid that doesn't exactly lend well when you need to do things covertly. He's easily intimidated and isn't exactly great when it comes to thinking on the spot. And so it stands to reason that in order to make the Empire believe that Marva is truly dead, they would also need to keep B in the dark as well. Ensuring that the droid had no knowledge of the secret plot would also mean that should the Empire capture B and interrogate him, they would get nothing out of it. So what exactly might Marva be planning, and what does she intend to do now that the Empire thinks she's dead? Well, a little clue that might give us some insights is actually the conversation between Dedra and the other Imperials. During the conversation, we learned that there will be a funeral procession and that the locals have started to apply for a permit to host such an event. So maybe what Marva intends to do is to use her funeral as an excuse to gather a large crowd. Given that the Imperials will probably break up any gatherings, a funeral officially sanctioned by the Empire would permit Marva to gather a large group of people. But what would be the purpose of getting everyone together? Well, what we do know, based on the various trailers, is that there is quite a bit of an uproar that is about to occur on Ferrix. The trailers did hint to us of a riot that is about to occur, with people like this boy here being active participants. And if you recall that this boy here is actually the son of Salman Pak, the guy who just got hanged by the Empire. Coincidence? I think not. Now, Dedra did have the foresight to try and limit the amount of people gathering for this funeral, so that might be a bit of an obstacle to whatever plan Marva is coming up with. Another clue that we are given is that when Attendant Korv says this,
"The dead are bricked. They mix your ashes with mortar and local stone dust, put your name on and fire it up.
And then what?
They find you a wall."
Now, on the surface, he is just describing the local customs of paying respects to their dead. However, what if the brick that is about to be placed in some wall is all part of the plan? I could totally see the rebels taking advantage of this custom to hide an explosive within a brick and use it to attack the Imperials. What if Marva's brick needed to be placed near the Imperial HQ or somewhere underneath the Imperial HQ?
What was she doing by the hotel?
She fell trying to pry open the Aldrich's floodgate.
She gonna flush them out?
No. She wanted to see if the tunnel under the hotel was still open, so the rebellion can sneak in and take them by surprise.
I wouldn't count out the possibility that whatever Marva might be planning has something to do with that. An explosive hidden within a brick could very well be used to either blow a hole and gain entrance into the HQ, or to flood it entirely. So I definitely do think that there is a possibility that Marva might still be alive, or at the very least Marva's death is not as simple as it seems. And if you want more clues as to what Marva might be up to, I suggest you check out my other video on Marva's plot. It's a little out of date as I made the video after episode 10, but there are some interesting details there that might still be relevant. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.